welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Turn the Page. I'm your host today, Jen, and today I am joined by the author of an absolutely beautiful book. It is so nuanced, so thoughtful, and so touching, very affecting, and I am so excited to have this conversation. So, welcome to the show. Could I ask you to introduce yourself and your book, please?
Sure. Thank you for the kind words, Jen. My name is Khadija VanBrakle. I'm the author of My Perfect Family. And so My Perfect Family was inspired by my love of the fraught mother-daughter relationships in the Gilmore Girls, but within a fractured Black American Muslim family.
Mm. It's a great dynamic, and I really like the way that you portray family dynamics in this book. They are very authentic and very complicated sometimes, but always, real and affecting and full of good intentions. But before we get too much into that, I'd love if we could talk a little bit about your journey as a writer and your previous book, if that's okay.
Sure. I was one of those people growing up that I would spend hours and hours in the library, but I never even knew, like I never thought, like, how do they write this book and how do they, get it published? And so my background's in accounting. So I tell people because I have an undergraduate degree in accounting and a half finished MBA that if I could write books, anybody can. So I think it started, I started in 2012 when one of my, I have five children and my youngest daughter is gifted. And her gifted teacher asked me to like write a story with her and then like come up with different endings. And I thought, I'm an extrovert. I can talk to almost anyone. I can write a book. I learned the opposite. So I took a class at the University of New Mexico's continuing education. And that's how I got connected with the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators, our chapter. And then we were off to the races.
Nice. I've seen in interviews elsewhere that in your books you like to give Black American Muslim teens impossible choices, quote unquote. Can you talk about maybe how that's portrayed in both of your books? What were you doing with that idea in Fatima Takes the Cake, and what are you doing in this book?
So I think for Fatima Tate Takes the Cake, it was a push and pull, which I wanted. I like to write about universal themes so that not, I write stories about Black American Muslim teens, not for. I write books for everyone. So I wanted the universal theme of when you want something, but your parents want something else for you. So that I wanted that push and pull in Fatima Tate. So Fatima wants to be a pastry chef, and her mother, especially, and her father's a little supportive, but her mother is vehemently against it because they want her to marry a young man from a wealthy Muslim family in Albuquerque where she lives. So the push and pull. And so, and it was funny because it was my agent's idea to include, so there's a Great British Bake Off for teens in that book. And I've always loved to bake. I'm just an amateur home baker, but I have one of my middle daughter is a pastry chef. So she did the recipes in the back of the book.
Oh, nice. Oh, that's
So
lovely.
yeah, so I definitely voice is really important to me because I want my books to sound authentic. Like this is a teen and this is a teen struggling. And I also want to give my characters hope, even though I want them to stumble a little bit, make maybe big mistakes. And then with the support, find the agency to get out of them. So yeah, impossible choices, that's my go-to. I love it.
Nice. Yeah.
Um I just want to say in My Perfect Family, Lena is a 16-year-old sophomore, but she's always wanted an extended family because it's always just been her and her mom. And so when she finds out that she has a Muslim grandfather and great aunt that she never knew about, and they live in Santa Fe, which is an hour from Albuquerque, where she lives, um, sort of like she has she has a yearning to get to know them, but she knows that the closer she gets to them, the more she may alienate her mom. So I think for Lena, the lesson that she's learning by fire is sometimes getting what you want threatens what you already have.
Mm. It's handled so beautifully. I think
Thank you.
you're welcome. It says a lot of really interesting and thoughtful things about intergenerational relationships. And I would love to ask about sort of a little bit more about Lena and her mother. So Lena has a single mother in this, and I was also raised by a single mother, and I felt I resonated a lot with some of those experiences of having a very small family and wishing for more people in your life. So that part really did resonate with me. Can you talk a little bit more about, yeah, building that dynamic and, that I guess that the universal part of that conflict, which is about when families love each other but want different things in the moment.
So I think for it was important for me. Always start with the main character when I'm writing a book. So I am a huge proponent of Story Genius by Lisa Crone, and you get down and dirty in the character development, and that is where I love to spend a lot of time because for me drafting is like pulling teeth. Like I would rather not have it done. I would rather not do it. But I just want to because I just want to edit. I love to revise. So I think for me, it definitely started with Lena and trying to get into, and with Story Genius, there are exercises. So you actually get so deep into your character that you create her misbelief, and Lena's is that she'd be happier with an extended family. And then you write 3 scenes that happen before the start of the book that cement that misbelief. So it's a lot of work, but I don't mind it because it helps me the drafting part, which I'm not real fond of. And then I can get into revising.
That's so interesting. And it's a good reminder, I think, that writing is a lot more than just what shows up on the page in the final product. There's all sorts of things that writers write that don't really end up in what you see. That's all part of the process. Um, so I'd love if we could talk a little bit about, fleshing out the supporting cast. Was there a character who was the easiest for you to connect to, and was there one who was the most challenging?
Oh, ooh, that's a good question. I don't think I've been asked that question. So let me think. Um, so I really did like writing Deidre, who's her best friend, Dee Dee, because I wanted her to have her own struggles, but I always like for my protagonists to have like somebody they're in their own age group that they can talk to and share with, especially when you're dealing with the push and pull of parental expectations versus what you want for yourself. So I think Deidre and you know her grandmother, who is not a very nice woman, was very hard for me to write because I wanted it to be the antithesis of the typical when you hear the word grandmother, I wanted it to be totally opposite of what you think when you say that word. And that's exactly what I think she is.
Yeah, yeah, she's not terribly grand.
Maternal.
No, yeah,
She's not much. Yeah.
in the traditional senses. Which, is a nice lead into my next question, which is that your books do deal with very complex issues that are very highly charged, but also full of nuance that are lead to these impossible choices for your teens. In this one, you deal with the complexity of gender roles, clothing, modesty expectations, abstinence, intimacy, all of these things. Do you have a personal strategy for like presenting these topics and all of their nuance to teen audiences? Do you have an approach for making them accessible, or do you just write and sort of like trust your audience to understand if that makes sense? I'm not sure if I quite phrased that correction question properly.
Well, I can say as I have 5 children, 3 of whom are daughters. So it's never difficult because I have plenty of experiences with teenage girls. Because not just my daughters and their friends, and unfortunately, I see a lack of talking about and addressing some of these impossible choices in my faith community. And I made it a point to make sure that didn't happen in my household. So that is what, spurs me on to write about those things, because I really feel like there are teenage girls who need to hear and need to understand that these are human experiences. And, if you make a wrong decision, it's okay. And, hopefully you have somebody there to support you.
Mm. Yeah, those is a really lovely aim, I think, because you know, we we project a lot of expectations and roles onto teens and expect them to make choices about their identity, how they are going to be present in the world, what their relationships will be like, all of these things before they even kind of figure out who they are, And I think that your books sort of provide a lovely roadmap for some of these, these issues that you might confront while navigating young adulthood and faith and a lot of really complicated things.
Try. I know that there are some people in my faith community, according to my girls, because I don't read reviews, that have huge issues with the topics that I address. But that's okay, because just put the book down. It's not for you. Don't have a problem, because the teens and older people that I want to reach, they get it. They understand that, even if it spurs conversation with teenagers, I think that's like, for World Read Aloud Day, I visited 6 classrooms and virtually. And it was amazing. I mean, of course, 5 of them were at once and it was organized chaos, but I loved it because just ask me the questions. And then the teacher shut down a couple because she was like, that's not appropriate, but it's fine. I like, listen to them. And because when I tell a teenager why I write books and the lack of representation for Black American Muslims in contemporary young adult, they get it. I've had adults look at me and say, and why does that matter? Tell my 14-year-old son that it doesn't matter. Tell my 3 daughters when they were teenagers, my youngest is 22, tell her it doesn't matter, and see their response. And I think that we do a disservice. There is so much in this world that the teenagers have to face that we didn't have to face with the, internet and the cell phones and always being plugged in. And, give them a little credit.
Mhm. Absolutely. I'm in total agreement. I really love that one anecdote you told about the classroom visits because I think something that teens are also doing that adults don't always like is boundary testing, right? Like learning what those boundaries are. And you're not going to really learn about them unless you sort of step over it once in a while. So having
Good.
the grace for teens to just sort of like be messy and a little embarrassing sometimes because we've all been through it, it's
And also, I have a 14-year-old son, and my daughters, if I step out of line, like they're going to be like, Mommy, what are you doing? They're going to, I'm going to be like, oh, did I do something wrong? And and I think the thing is that you want your teens to grow up to be critical thinkers,
Yes.
and you have to give them, and where's the safe place
Mhm.
to have these kind of conversations if it's not in the home? That's my job as a parent.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And the right book with the right representation and the right story can begin those conversations that can be, I imagine, very difficult to have. Like it's hard to sort of start a conversation like that ex nihilo, so having the book to refer to and to start a conversation is really lovely. I do have a question about sort of representation, which you've hinted at that you are writing so that Black American Muslim teens can see themselves on the page, but also for developing empathy in other readers, because it's important for all sorts of readers to be exposed to all sorts of characters and cultures and worlds and conflicts. Do you have both those audiences in mind when you write, or are you just writing for the teens and prevent like just providing an authentic experience, or are there like do you provide access points for people from who might be less familiar with the cultures that you're portraying, or how do you approach your audience that way?
So I just tell the story, but because I feel and I've lived this life and my daughters have lived this life, forever, for as long as we've been breathing, I think that so many instances or things that could like happen are just universal things. So I really, really think, and it's there, the stories about, so there, I sprinkle in some stuff about Islam and the faith community because this is what my characters are living. Well, not in Lena's case, but especially in Fatima Tate. But I put like, in Fatima Tate, there's a little problem when she goes to the baking show with her best friend, and the woman who's checking her in assumes that her best friend is her sister. And so, why is that? Because our skin is both brown.
Mm.
I just or somebody's asking in the Fatima Tate if her headscarf is regulation in the competition, and can she really wear that? And actually, that's happened to me. So
No.
in a different and not a baking competition, but a different type of competition. So I really try to, because it's realistic fiction. So I really try to take everyday events that can happen to anybody and, and weave them within the story.
Mm.
Because I think it doesn't just build empathy. So the reason why, because I didn't start writing young adult in 2012, but in 2017, my youngest daughter came home from ninth grade and said she almost got in a fight. And I said, "Oh no, this is the gifted one. What are we doing?" And she said that another classmate told her, "You can't be Black and Muslim at the same time." So I was like, "Oh," so we went to the library and we looked for books. There wasn't one that I could find, that the librarian could find. And then come to find out, the first one that I found traditionally published in contemporary YA was Layla Sabrine's You Truly Assumed. So that was 5 years later. So I just started in 2017. I said, okay, well, if there are no books, then that means I have to write them.
Yeah. There's a lot of weight on one book. If you are like the one book in the world that is representing a particular community or individual, that's so much pressure on one book to represent absolutely everything. And so writing more stories and sort of having glimpses into like multiple ways of being within a community or within an age group or within a family even, I think just broadens a person's horizons as well, because I think the human brain loves to sort of try to be reductive and draw conclusions about communities, and representing multiple individuals just gives you such a broader range of experience. Does that make any sense at all? Or
Yeah, exactly. Because I really, in addition to, I want readers to find my book and to read them and have discussions and hopefully love them. But I also want to encourage other people who, the statistics are so dismal for representation in their, desired genre to be inspired to be like, oh, okay, if Khadija VanBrakle could do it when she's much more comfortable around, income statements and spreadsheets, I can do it too.
That's lovely. And I think, yeah, the best books, especially like the right book hitting the right teen at the right time, can really change a life. And, yeah, invite others to write and represent their experiences and ideas. And you just it's a really beautiful thing. And I'm very excited about, giving this book to our teen patrons. I think they're really going to enjoy it. I have one more question before we wrap up. My question is, what is on your horizon? Are you writing at the moment? And I would like, I guess, generally, if you are writing, I know that it's often, you can't really talk about the specifics of works that aren't announced yet, but are there um, similar themes from your previous work that you hope to keep exploring? And are there new territories that you perhaps hope to venture into?
Well, sort of both. So I have, so Fatima Tate was not my first written book. It was the first published book. So I have a book that's 81,000 words of needs revision in contemporary YA. It's a lot. It needs to be revised desperately. And it's on a difficult subject on predatory grooming. So it's, whew. And there are two different genres that I've been exploring. One a completed thing is already with my agent. Another one, the outline, the chapter by chapter outline is done, and I'm slowly drafting because I had to read. Like I read a lot of books in the genre before I start, just so I know. Okay, let me see what I can say and what I can't say, and I just look and see what's being published and just to get an idea. And then so I also have a middle grade contemporary that um, I had to stop writing because I had to do with edits for My Perfect Family. So I'm probably 10,000 words in on that book. So yeah, there's just lots of stuff going on. And of course, I love YA fantasy. So usually when I'm drafting, that's what I read because the books that I read in YA fantasy, their world building is this A plus plus, and I could never. It would take me years because I'd have to get the monetary system and the tax system. It would be a mess. So yeah, I love YA fantasy while I'm drafting.
Wow. And now I'm imagining like a book about like, an accountant and like this really like the lush fantasy world. And I'm like, I would actually read that. That's great. But thank you so much for coming by and sharing your work with us and our listeners and our patrons. I'm just so excited to put this book in people's hands. And I'm very excited to see what you write next. Thanks for sharing your time with us.
And thank you for inviting me, Jen. And and please, as a librarian, let me know how I can support you. I try to support because I think librarians, booksellers, especially indie ones, we're all just part of the process, and we're all out there trying to, inspire teens and older, to read and explore.
Mhm. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. So good to have, more library friends, writer friends, and listeners. I really do hope that you check out My Perfect Family. It is an absolutely beautiful read. And yeah, you're going to love it. So thank you all for joining us. It's time to close this chapter.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.